Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janice R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janice will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janice R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janice Cohen, the intuitive therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. I have my amazing guest, Tracy Frederick, back to talk more about medical mediumship and some very interesting facets of it. I know we began the introduction to this, and based on what I'm looking at, the data says that this is one of the highest downloaded episodes that we've had. So clearly what we're talking about is speaking to people, and it's a fascinating topic. And so is people's physical health. You know, I think probably the number one goal of people is to, let's just put it this way, one of the primary goals of people is to be healthy. I think everybody does. But the question is, how do you get there? And, when it comes to self-healing, you have to learn what created the dis-ease in your body before you can begin a healing process. And you have to look at when and where your physical illness began and connect to it, connect an emotional, mental, or spiritual root cause in order to heal it.
So the title of today's show is Getting to the Heart of the Matter. And this really, when I was speaking with Tracy before, she had sent me some notes. But one of the things that she talked about was that, the heart is the storage container for all emotions, thoughts, feelings, and actions that we take or don't take. And I was like, I did not even know that. Even, I understand that the heart is your second brain, but I didn't realize that it absorbed all of these things. And she went on to share, she's like, heart disease is the number one killer of men and women in the United States. And today, we're going to be talking about some of the causes that make the heart sick. But it's not just physical stuff. So we're not going to bore you with a bunch of statistics and stuff that you could look up on the internet. This is a really cool conversation about how the heart is really the conduit for, yes, of course, our physical health, because we have to have a healthy functioning heart, but just in terms of who we are overall, the heart is the essential organ to make sure that we have a good relationship with. And like I said, my dear friend, an amazing human being, medical intuitive Tracy Frederick, she has spent several years studying and honing the skill of, this healing modality, medical mediumship. And one subject that she's extremely passionate about is the heart. And today we're going to be talking about the energy that's found in the heart, how it gets blocked, and what you can do to overcome any kind of manifested physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual heart challenges. And again, I don't want you to just be so stuck on the heart, because it's a literal and a metaphorical reference. And those that have mentioned, manifested the energetic experiences into physical form, and maybe even those that are lurking around in your energy field that subject you to feelings and emotions that you're not sure how to deal with, we are going to address that today. So we did a previous episode with Tracy, so please go back and listen to that one. It's really going to give you the baseline for what we're talking about today. But if you haven't, you can still listen to this and experience some good knowledge and success. So, okay, look, Tracy.
Yes.
We know, first of all, welcome again. I've been so excited to to connect with you here.
Thank
And
you.
again, I'm like, people are downloading this episode like crazy because it's
Wow.
good stuff. So I wanted you to
Yeah.
know that.
Well, thanks.
So,
I appreciate you having me
yeah.
back.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we know that the heart is located in the fourth chakra, right? Of our seven
Yes.
main
Yes.
energy centers. But when it
Yes.
comes to our health, what can you tell us about the heart?
Well, you're right. It's located in the fourth chakra and of our seven main chakras. And there's many more chakras, but we're just going to stick with the main chakras here. But that's exactly where it's located. And this is a subject that I'm very passionate about, and I love to speak about it because what I've come to realize that every thought, action, desire, words we use, all that goes through the heart. And one of my sayings is nothing bypasses the heart.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing bypasses the heart. That means that we experience our life through our heart. Once we realize this, we will understand that this vital organ is delicate, but it's also very resilient. And an example of that would be, when we are kind and loving to ourselves and to others, our heart functions well, the blood flows in and out. So that's the physical part of it. And we experience love for ourselves and others. And we're in a place in our lives where we can forgive others and ourselves. The heart will be healthy and full of vitality. And these are high vibrational energies, and our heart responds and accepts the feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And the energy that goes through our heart is clean, it's clear, it's not blocked, it's not muddled in any way. And this is when you may have the experience of feeling high on life. Like, you feel like, oh, I'm just kind of high on life right now.
Mm-hmm.
You may say things like, I'm just loving life. I am just loving life right now.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
sure.
your heart is experiencing that. You're feeling good. You might say things like, God is good. All these types of thoughts and emotions will reflect a healthy heart and good energy flow.
Mm.
On the other hand, when we are experiencing what I term lower vibrational energies going through our heart, such as anger, fear, frustration, contempt, unforgiveness towards others or ourselves, dishonesty, revenge, or rage, our heart will hang on to these energies just like it hangs on to the higher vibrational energies. And these thoughts, these feelings, and emotions create discomfort, which could show up as certain health conditions in the heart or the chest area. And this type of energy blocks the flow of the life force that we need for daily survival.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. So it is really, it's when you think about um, how you think and how you perceive things and what filter you process life through, this is a literal,
Yeah.
literal um, result of um, your health. If
Absolutely.
yeah, your body takes everything on, and like you're saying,
Yeah.
especially your heart. Wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
fantastic.
And I do believe it's the quality of our thoughts that keep us healthy or unhealthy.
No, there's no question about that. I
Yeah.
mean, because we talk about where energy flows and your focus and all of that.
Yeah.
That's
And how does that saying go? Where the energy flow, where the mind goes, the energy flows.
yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter what you're thinking about, the energy is going to flow there.
That's
So
true.
yeah. So you can become conscious of what you're thinking. And I like to say, I've said this before. This is just my interpretation. This is how I
Yeah.
view it. But I believe that the mind thinks it, and then the heart says, "Where am I going to file that? Am I going
Mm,
to keep? Am I going to keep it? Am I going to
mhm.
keep it in the heart? Am I going to file it somewhere else in the body? Or am I going to keep a piece of that in the heart, and or am I going to file that in another part of the body as well?"
So you're
Yeah.
saying the heart really it's the central filtration system
In my
for,
opinion.
in your opinion, for the energy that we experience.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you said before that every physical condition has an underlying mental, emotional, spiritual cause. So tell us about, the energy of our heart and how it gets blocked, making us pretty uncomfortable.
Okay. Well, first of all, I do want to clarify that I am not a doctor, I'm not a nurse or a medical
Yes.
professional at all. I'm an energy reader. And when I read someone's energy, I'm picking up on the emotional, mental, spiritual causes related to the physical conditions that people are having. So that's the information that I'm looking for when I read energy. I'm looking to find this information. And that's going to come in the form of signs, symbols, vignettes, however it's given to me.
Yeah.
And I get this information through hearing, seeing, feeling, and knowing, just exactly how you get your information.
Sure.
But so why does energy running through our heart get blocked?
Yeah.
Our energy is a giver and a receiver of love. And it's also our connection to God, our source, a higher power, whatever you choose to call it. It's our connection. That again lies in the heart. It's where we connect with oneness of the divine.
Yeah.
When you're not connected to this higher source, and you're not coming from a place of, oneness, your heart can be affected. The heart also has compassion for another person or for oneself. This is where our compassion lies. When you think about that, when you see something and you'll say, "Oh my gosh, my heart really goes out to that person," or whatever.
Right.
Well,
Or
that's
bless their heart. That's a
bless their
Southern
heart.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the compassion. And compassion lies in the heart. That's where it starts.
Wow.
And like I said before, not all blocked energy will manifest itself into a physical condition. But a lot of times this blocked energy will give us the feeling that something's just not right. And you may have even said that to yourself before. You may have even said it to your
Yeah.
friends.
You just feel off.
Yeah, my heart feels heavy.
Yeah.
And so I encourage the listeners to listen really close to the language that you use about yourself and the language that you hear other people use, because that's a telltale sign of what's going on with someone somewhere in their body. But in reference to the heart, oh, my heart feels heavy. Oh, I feel so, my heart feels burdened. Oh, that just, my chest just is, I'm just, I have a pounding in my chest. So that's a very good indicator that there's something going on in the chest area.
Wow.
But some of the causes that are related to the heart will have to do with our inability to give or receive love to ourselves or others. Love is the one thing that the heart needs to survive on an emotional level. That's the one thing that the heart has to have, or it cannot survive. It cannot survive without love. When we don't like someone, such as a family member, a partner, or a friend, because they've hurt us, we may withhold love or exchange that love for hate or anger.
For sure.
And this energy will hang around in your chest area. And sometimes that's due to a broken heart, sadness, grief. Love is when energy flows, and when there's no love, when there is no love or not enough love, the energy will not flow just won't flow as well.
So let
through
me
the
ask
heart.
you this. When people who have anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and they feel that in their chest, you're saying this is because they're not giving themselves the kind of love and compassion that they need. So their heart is starting to function differently.
Yeah. Well, anxiety is whenever we get on that merry-go-round or hamster wheel of thinking over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Anxiety is those kind of thoughts about the future. That's what brings on the anxiety. That's the kind of thoughts that are bringing on the anxiety. So anxiety thoughts will come in and tell you, "Oh, you're not doing this right," or "What's wrong with you?" Well, the heart doesn't want to hear that. The heart doesn't want that. The heart,
it's rejecting that. You're saying it's rejecting that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's I like, instead of rejecting, I would say more so it's signaling to you.
Okay.
Don't talk to yourself like that. Don't talk to yourself like
Or
that.
think the thoughts you're thinking.
Don't think those thoughts about yourself.
Catastrophize, right?
Correct.
Don't
Absolutely.
Do Beautiful. Yeah.
Because what happens is those thoughts, if you continue to think them, you're going to manifest them into physical form.
For sure. As well as unforgiveness. I know we talked about that.
Yes.
That sits heavy. That one, this to me, y'all, when I was thinking about this and just reading over some of Tracy's notes, this piece right here, perhaps to me, is one of the most important pieces I want y'all to listen to. Unforgiveness, because there isn't a person on the face of this earth that is completely, how do I say it, who is completely forgiven everything and everyone, including themselves. That is just my generalization,
Yeah.
because although I do believe that there are people who, when they come upon an emotion, they can clear it energetically, and so they don't have it. But if you're human, you're going to encounter experiences not only with other people, but yourself too, which to me is the primary uh, source of forgiveness you need to give to yourself. But this concept of unforgiveness is central to
Yeah.
how happy and healthy we are. So, can you just speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. So to me, unforgiveness is an area that's really often underaddressed,
Oh,
and
completely.
it can cause serious damage to your heart. Um, the saying goes that forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person, it's for you. And I want to be clear, I'm not asking you or anyone to forgive and just be done. This takes time and you have to process it. That's when you might want to have some empowerment coaching sessions, seek somebody like Janice or someone like myself. But forgiveness cannot be done overnight, and nor should it be. You have to process it. But when you're ready, seek the help so that you can release it, because in my opinion, it's a huge, might even go so far as to say it's the number one block for a lot of people is unforgiveness of others, but more so than that, unforgiveness to yourself.
Exactly. I would love to just stop there, because that truly is so important for you to talk about. And one of the things you mentioned, which was great, that forgiveness is for you, and it doesn't happen quickly. It can, but a lot of the times, what I have found out about why it's so hard for people to forgive other people and themselves is because they feel like something unfair or unjust has happened, and they were at that point incapable of protecting themselves against it. Right. To me,
Yeah.
I've been in this business for 31 years, and every single experience that anybody has had where it's been a breakup or betrayal or some sort of disappointment about how something should have gone,
Yeah.
it's always this sense of injustice. And
Yep.
and then on the flip side of that, you have how you've handled it. It's one thing for people to do their own thing, and that's their stuff, and it's not for you to be concerned about. But when it comes to forgiving yourself, like I can think of, for many, many decades of my life, I still am to a degree hard on myself. Even though
Absolutely.
intellectually I know, Janice, don't be that way.
Right.
But for decades, and I've shared this with you too, just felt like a fuck up, really. And
Yeah.
so I had to make peace with myself around that. But this unforgiveness piece, huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And forgiveness is a choice.
It sure is.
Forgiveness is a choice. And when you cannot or you choose not to forgive someone else or yourself, uh, our heart will suffer. It will suffer. Also, when you cannot forgive yourself for something that you said or did to someone else,
Yeah, that's a tough one sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
because we often think forgiveness, well, someone's done something to me, but we don't often like to remember that we've done something to somebody else as well.
yeah.
And so sometimes you have to forgive yourself for the very acts of unkind things that you've said and done. And there again, that's going to affect you.
Well,
When you
and I just
go
want to
ahead.
interrupt too. So one of
Yeah.
one of the pieces, one of the ways that people can forgive themselves, and this is something, they for sure just drop down into my awareness, is to redefine who you are, your identity.
Yeah.
when you consider yourself somebody who's done something bad or wrong, and you have a sense of guilt, then you have the capacity. Guilt is more easily dealt with than shame, right? When we can't
Mhm.
forgive ourselves, we carry around a sense of shame, meaning who we are at the core is bad or wrong, right? That's where unforgiveness uh,
Right.
can live, and that's where it makes forgiving ourselves difficult. But when you kind of are fairly intact and you screw up, you're not going to beat yourself up for the rest of your life. You're going to say, okay, wait a minute, I screwed up. I can take ownership to the best of my ability, and I can choose next time not to do that. That's guilt versus shame. And so that, to me, how you identify yourself as somebody who is good, is kind, who made a mistake but is a good human being, it'll be easier for you to forgive yourself. But if
I
you've grown
agree.
up with being told that you're not good enough and you're a failure and a fuck up
Right.
and whatever it is, and you believe that,
Yeah.
then you will never be able to forgive yourself. So being clear on the identity of who you really truly are
Right.
allows forgiveness to happen easier.
Absolutely. It's very, very important to come to know who you are.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it's so easy to forgive other people, but it's so rare for us to forgive ourselves.
Yes, we don't even think about it
But
sometimes.
yeah, but when you do take the time to turn within and forgive yourself and look at the situation and forgive yourself, you can most definitely get a healing.
Mm,
And I experienced that firsthand with my husband Paul.
tell me.
Like I said, like I said in the first episode, that my husband Paul passed away. It will be a year this month,
Mhm.
and he was dying of colon cancer. And we were working. It was pretty evident he was not going to get a physical healing, and so we were working on an emotional healing because it was, like I said, it was evident physical healing wasn't going to happen. And he told me, I'm asking him about forgiveness. I said, Paul, have you forgiven, the people in your life that have hurt you? And he said, Tracy, I have. I harbor nothing else left in my heart, for the people that have hurt me. I feel like I've taken care of this. And he was so sincere. And then it just hit me. It just, a drop in came in. And I said, well, what about yourself?
Mm,
Have you forgiven yourself? Have you forgiven yourself for
wow.
allowing have you forgiven yourself for allowing people to treat you the way they treated you and not standing up for yourself?
Whoa.
Have you forgiven yourself for not speaking up whenever you really wanted to defend
Mm,
yourself? Have you forgiven yourself for just staying in a position, in a situation, in a relationship longer than what you could have? You could have gotten out
yeah.
sooner, and you stayed there longer, and you experienced even more traumatic events, more insults, more injury. Have you forgiven yourself for allowing yourself to be in that position? And it was the strangest thing. He just looked at me and he said, oh my God, no, I have not. And when I tell you, the floodgates just opened. He just
Mm,
started he says, no, I have forgiven everybody else, but I haven't forgiven myself. And
wow.
he just cried it out, and just that quick, in an instant, that was a healing.
Wow.
That was a healing. And that's how fast a healing can happen.
Mm,
So, my hope for the listeners that are listening to this doesn't have to be, you don't have to go lay out on somebody's couch and,
yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
pour your heart out and do all this stuff. Self healing happens the minute you make the decision for it to happen.
Yeah.
It
The
happens.
release. It's the
Yeah.
release. That's
Yeah.
when we talk about self-healing, it is the release.
Yeah.
When you stop beating up on yourself or practicing that self-loathing and calling
Yeah.
yourself a fuck up because you made a mistake and maybe you did it in front of a bunch of people and it felt embarrassing for a moment. First of all, most people really don't give a shit after the first 30 seconds that something happened. And second of all, it's your projection onto everybody else, this
Yeah.
label that you have. So once
Yeah.
you eliminate those two things and you get back to the truth, which is you are made in God's image and you are a good human being who has had a path of learning that is different from everybody else. We all have different paths, And maybe your learning curve has been steep,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
yet you say, you know what? How much good is this self-loathing doing to me? How much good?
Yeah. And I can assure you it's not doing any good.
Exactly.
None.
Yeah.
And by the way, the energy of unforgiveness, according to my healing guide, Tommy, I was studying with him one day, and he pointed out to me that unforgiveness will affect on a physical level the aortic valve in a person's heart.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I actually was able to validate this information when I was speaking to a friend that told me his wife needed an aortic valve replacement, but she was unable to have the surgery because she was too sick. And he went on to explain she ended up passing away. And he went on to explain that she had spent many, many, many years living in the past, recounting all the things that people had done to her.
Wow.
And his words were she just couldn't let it go. She couldn't let things go. She could not forgive anyone. She just kept bringing it up over and over and over again.
So, it's interesting that people get stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to comment on that because it brings me back to the initial comment that I talked to you about where you can't get over the sense of injustice. And so your anger becomes justified the longer you hold on to it, and the stronger the story around it becomes.
Yeah.
And so, I always find that people who are stuck in that space, like, you're on a submarine and the what's it called? The thing that you in a submarine.
Oh,
Where you see incoming.
yeah, I don't know what
Okay, I can't remember no, I can't remember the
some
name
kind
of
of
that.
something or another.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not a telescope, but it's a something other.
We'll call it
Yeah.
that, right? We'll call it that. But you can only see 3 feet beyond, right? It's like this very small diameter. And so, people who find themselves stuck in, the lower energies or the unhappiness or the anger and the resentment, all of that, you're only paying attention to that. And so
Right.
the idea of being happier means that you have to let go of all of this stuff, and that scares the shit out of you because you've been justified for so many years
Right.
in your mind. But listen, y'all, listen to the damage that it does.
So when I'm reading people's hearts, I like to read people's hearts.
Yeah.
I'll incorporate that into a reading, or if somebody wants just their heart to be read, I can do that too.
Yeah.
But when I'm reading someone's heart, I'm looking. I definitely look at the aortic valve. I purposely look at the aortic valve because I want to see what kind of condition it's in, what's it looking like, and is there some blocked energy around that area of the heart?
Wow.
Yeah. I've seen it plenty of times.
Yeah.
And again, and I don't want to scare people with that, but I also want them to think about people that
No, but this is so important to talk about because even as women, here we are. That's the number one killer for us.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it is.
Right. So tell me,
and think about the relationship trauma about that. Let's go there for just a quick. Relationship trauma, when you can't, when you're going through a breakup with a spouse, a partner, or even a friendship.
Sure.
And you can't let that go. And you keep telling that story over and over and over. And, people, you often hear that the saying that says, well, I can forgive, but I can't forget. You know what my words are to you right about now? You damn well better forget. Because if you don't forget it, you have to forgive and let it go.
Yeah.
Because unforgiveness doesn't work if you don't let it go. If you're still hanging on to it. And so that's kind of like putting it on the back of the shelf, but not really getting rid of it. And then sooner or later, years to come even, it's going to creep back up to the front of the shelf. And you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, they're giving me this visual. They're showing me that when you don't take care of that part of you inside that needs the sense of safety, and this is oftentimes like a child state, when you don't, and you don't make sure that that part of yourself trusts you implicitly to keep them safe, then you're going to hold contempt to other people because you're putting your power in their hands. And that's why we tend to stay angry. It's like we forget to look within, right? We forget. Instead, we're so busy being angry about how everybody's fucked us and screwed us and done all this awful stuff.
Wanting revenge, wanting justice.
Yeah. When in fact, this is your life. Like, you chose this stuff. What other people do is up to you. But you called in these experiences for a reason, and how you handle this matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How you handle it matters.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is to handle it. When,
Exactly.
this unforgiveness, it's going to creep up, and it's going to creep up when no one's around. And it's signaling to you, you might get a little pitter patter in your heart or something, or heartburn. You might get, an uncomfortable feeling in your chest or whatever. That's a perfect signal that, hey, what have I been thinking lately?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, me personally, and I would say this to the listeners or to anyone else.
Yeah.
If you get a little twinge in your heart, or you've ever had like a little ping, you have I just felt,
sure. Yeah.
The first thing you should do is go back and think, what have I just been thinking about in the last couple of minutes? What have I been thinking about the last couple of hours, the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, and then the last couple of months? And I can promise you, if you can trail it back, you're going to figure it out. And that's how you help your own self out. What have I been thinking? Because energy follows thought.
Oh yeah. Now, you talk about some other areas that your heart can become unhealthy, and how it impacts our daily lives. Tell me some of those.
Well, one of those ways is whenever you don't feel the connection with God.
Yeah.
Or your higher source, or your higher being. You may have a heart condition. Because when you forget, which is what we do while we're here, right? We're here because we forgot, and the whole purpose is to come here and remember.
Yes.
But we're not alone. And how many people, so say, quote unquote, die of loneliness?
Yeah.
And loneliness is all about, oh, I've been forgotten. Nobody's going to remember me.
I'm separate from.
I'm not connected. So when you don't have that connection to God, your higher source, your higher being, then yes, it's going to affect your heart, because where does it come in? Yeah. That's the heart's affinity is powered by unconditional love for yourself.
Yeah.
Unconditional love
That's
for others.
That's a tough one for a lot of people. In fact, I did a podcast episode recently about that.
You did, and I said, oh my God, I'm going to talk about that on the podcast, and she's beat me to the punch.
It's just, self-love. It is so important, and it's something that's very hard to come by. I'll be very honest with you. It's not an easy thing, because we can find fault in everybody else screwing up or not being good enough, but boy, do we not look within when it comes to that.
Yeah. Check your relationship with God. And, I am going to reference my book just for a quick second.
Yeah, sure.
But in my book, and I think it's on page 11. And if you want a copy of my book, please go to my website, tracyfrederick.com, and it's a free download. But I wrote this little book, Meet My Friend Jesus, and it's on page 11.
Channeled him this morning together.
We did.
Yeah, I work with Jesus too.
Yeah,
it's all good. We're not talking about religious stuff. We're just talking about the energy.
Yeah, the energy of, yes. And so page 11, it says it's about relationship. It's not about religion. Your connection with God is not about whether you go to church.
100%.
Yeah, it's about what are you doing? What are you doing with God? Are you communing with God? Are you connected? Are you understanding that there's a power higher and greater than you that's guiding you?
And you're honoring that and showing reverence.
Yes, absolutely. So when we don't do that, we may very well get a heart condition.
Yes.
And, it's my belief that when as children, we're not shown unconditional love sometimes from our parents, and we have a hard time believing that God loves us.
Mm,
We believe on some level that God's love is conditional, just like our parents. And that's why we have a hard time accepting and believing in unconditional love, because it may not be being shown to us on a physical level.
yeah.
And true unconditional love that we receive from God is not, in my opinion, always it's not on a physical level. It's on
Sure.
a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the way to heal this for yourself is to know yourself in the same way that God knows you, um, that you're perfectly made, flaws and all, and that you're an extension of that divine love. You are love. You
Mm,
cannot be anything else. You are God. God is you.
yeah.
And this is how you start to accept that and dive into that area of it. And you're not here alone. You're not going to be left alone.
Yeah. And the inability to love and accept yourself, um,
Yes,
that
that
is
will cause,
huge,
yeah,
huge,
that
huge.
that will cause misalignment in your heart area. And the biggest way you can check that is I will ask clients if they love themselves, and they often get this look in their eyes, and they want to stare off, and they start getting fidgety in the chair, and they just don't want to go there. It's too painful. They don't want to go there.
But it's
And
the
that's when
crux of everything good,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. And when you can't look yourself in the mirror and say, I love me,
Right.
that's an issue. And
Oh, yeah.
hey, I'm raising my hand, the highest in the room here.
Oh, sure, sure, sure.
What do I do for a living? I do hair for my 30, almost 39 years. And I look in the mirror every day, but I'll be the first one to tell you, I looked past myself every day in the mirror. I wasn't looking at myself when I was looking in the mirror. I'm standing in front of a mirror every day, and I couldn't look in
Every
the
day.
mirror
Yeah.
until I finally came to the realization that, hey, that's you in there. And
Mm,
you need to make friends, and you need to love who's looking back at you.
yes.
And I know firsthand how hard it is to look in the mirror. But I also know whenever I took the time to turn within and to start looking within the mirror and saying to myself,
I
hey, I
love
love you,
you. Yeah.
and
Amen.
I love what I created.
Yeah.
I love what God and I created. And you have to tell yourself that every single day,
Yeah.
because the world is quick to remind you and tell you
Exactly.
and send signals and messages to you that you're flawed, there's something
Yep.
wrong with you,
Yep.
and you're not.
Yep.
And that's why we will sometimes do things to ourselves, do things to our bodies or whatever, to prove, oh, I'm willing, I'm worthy, I'm lovable if I look like this and I do this, when in all actuality, you're perfectly fine if you do nothing.
Yeah.
You do nothing at all.
And the label that you give yourself is key.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you talk about how passion and purpose comes from the heart. And is it true that when you lose passion for something or feel like you have no purpose in your life, that your heart can suffer?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're not doing or living your heart's desire, you can develop blocked energy in your heart. An
Wow.
example of that is, I don't like my job. I want to do something else. And you may say, my heart's just not in it any longer. Again,
Yeah.
go back and listen to the language. Listeners, if you want to help your friends out, when you hear your friend or your coworker or somebody say, my heart's just not in this job anymore. That's how the signals come in.
Mm,
You know, be aware, pay attention to what you're saying, what you're feeling, but pay attention to what your other friends, and you can just simply give the advice to your friend. Well, why don't you look for another job? Why don't you look for another job that's more fulfilling?
yeah.
Because that's a good indication.
And
Your
life
heart's not in
becomes
it.
boring and ugly
Yeah.
if you don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
anything compelling in your life or something
Yeah.
that you feel passionate about. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, why wouldn't you feel that way? For
And
sure.
it's not that you have to be like over the top every single day.
Of course not.
But you have to love what you do. You have to feel good about what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just your soul telling you. That's your soul sending the
It
signal to the
sure is.
body saying, hey, you need to do something a little bit different. I've heard of people staying on the job only to finally retire and have a heart attack or some type of a sickness because they stayed in the job too long is what
Yeah.
happened.
No question.
Um,
And we
you
all
know,
know when we overstay our welcome in relationships and jobs, and
yeah,
we know we just are too scared to do something different because,
yeah,
whether it feels familiar or we don't feel like we can be resourceful enough
yeah,
to find other options.
yeah. When you're not living your heart's desire, your heart will attack itself.
For sure. Wow.
Heart attack.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
So
So
the
that
language is important.
language is extremely, extremely, extremely important. This recently happened to someone that I know. They had a wake up call. They were at work and having a hard time focusing and reading the words on the computer, having headaches, brain fog. Went to the hospital and performed all these tests. Couldn't find anything wrong at all. And on an unconscious level, this person was being given the signs. It's time to leave this unfulfilling and stressful job. So yeah, that's how the body signals us. That's what it's going to do. It's going to give you a signal.
I think we as a human race has normalized not feeling good. I think people I know I do. I mean, I should be going to the chiropractor every week because, hey, I love, hearing the pop and the crack and it feels good, or
It
getting a
does.
massage. But you know what? I'll be the first to tell you, I normalized
Yeah,
all
I don't
the
have time for that.
in my shoulders and neck,
Yeah.
like, so I think people don't, the idea of the mind body connection, I think, even though it's been a very long standing concept, truth, let me just put it that way, most people do not take the time to lean into that and understand that there is a real true connection between the symptoms in our bodies and how we
Yeah.
think and feel about ourselves in our lives. And I know you talked about there are a couple of things that people can do when it comes to recognizing signs in the body, the signs that the body gives us to let us know if we're
Yes.
out of alignment.
Yeah.
And that's very key. I talk about alignment all the time.
Yeah.
And your body is your baseline for letting you know whether or not you're in alignment or not. So are your feelings. Like, that's another detector. But
Mm-hmm.
please, will you just share a little bit about that?
Well, so these are a few suggestions on, how to listen. How does the body send us these signals? And first of all, you have to become very in tune with your body. And for that, I mean, get to know your body. You should know every single part of your body, so that when you're not feeling up to par, something's just not right, doesn't feel normal, you're instantly going to know it.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is, look your body over, so look at your skin, look at your legs, look at the front, look at the
Touch your
back,
body. I mean, there's
touch
no
your body.
crime in
It's
touching your
yours.
body. It is
Yeah,
yours.
it's if it's itch. Hey, even itching means something. It means you're not satisfied. Itching, if you're itching in a particular part of your body, say you're itching in the back of your hand, and you scratch in the back of your hand. Well, itching means that you're not satisfied with that area of your body, of your life. So for instance, if you're scratching the back of your hand, I'm not happy. I'm holding on to something maybe that I'm not happy about. I'm scratching. Yeah. So you could scratch might want to scratch your foot. Well, the feet are about directions. What direction are you going to take? The skin in general is as how how we think the world perceives us.
Mm.
So, scratch your nose. Okay. What's not right in the nose? Maybe it's none of my business. And I'm,
Yeah,
I don't know.
right, just being nosy. I
Yeah.
love it. And
Could
so
be being nosy. Yeah.
you're
None of my
getting
business.
us to really think about
Yeah.
the literal and metaphorical meanings
Absolutely.
of the
Absolutely.
things that are
Everything
going
means
on.
something.
Is it,
Everything.
isn't that amazing? Like, to
Yeah.
me, it blows my mind. And most people don't think about that. Again, you normalize and accept the fact that your wrist hurts, or that you can't walk, or your back is screwed up, or you have constant migraines. It's like, look a
What's
little
going
deeper, people. What is going on? Here's your
Yeah.
body screaming out at you. You have a migraine. What is the headache in your life? what is that? Right?
Yeah. What have you
So,
been constantly thinking about to cause your head to hurt?
yeah. So, some people will say, "Oh, it's my hormones," and that could be
It could
true,
very well be.
right?
Yeah.
So you would of course rule out anything medical,
Right.
and if you do that and you're still suffering with pains and aches and
And a lot of times it's a combination.
yeah,
You can go to the doctor and figure it out physically, but when you combine that with with an emotional, mental, or spiritual cause, and you combine those two,
yeah,
that's like a quadruple healing.
oh,
You
for
can
sure.
really do some serious healing.
Oh yeah,
Get it taken care of on a physical level, but turn within and say, okay, emotionally, what is this all about? And ask your body. Ask your body, hey, I wonder what. Just simply put it out there to the universe. I wonder what this is all about.
yes, be
You know,
curious,
be curious, because if you put it out there, the universe is going to answer that
for
question
sure.
for you.
It's just a
Yeah,
matter of whether or not you're ready to listen,
yeah.
because
And
if yeah,
but if you're busy and you're not paying attention, and I'm going to look at that later, and later never gets here, never.
yeah,
So then you
right.
just lose that thought, and then it comes back around, and then the rash may get bigger and bigger before you finally said, "Oh, well, I guess I need to check into that." And that's how it happens. But another way is to get quiet and listen to what your body's trying to tell you. Again, ask the questions. Think back to some recent conversations that you've had. Because the body responds fairly quickly a lot of times.
Yeah, it does. Oh, for sure.
Sometimes it's things that we've buried so deep, and that eventually comes back around. But it's often it comes back around because of a recent conversation, a recent thought, something triggered you. So what's going on with you? Did you say something hurtful on a heart level? Did you say something hurtful to someone? Did someone say something hurtful to you that kind of pinged your heart? All the body parts. Your stomach might listen to your stomach. It might say, "Hey, I need to eat some yogurt today."
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you have a strong desire to do something, that's your body giving you the signal. That's your intuition kicking in. But then it's also your body has a voice in that as well, saying, "Hey, I feel really good if we ate some strawberries," or "I'd feel really good if we ate some yogurt today."
And then there's the flip side of, if I go buy a whole pack of donuts, like, that could just be your body letting you know that you need so much sugar.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
got to really look at that. Is that what
yeah,
you want to do?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm curious. I know we're going to talk about how listeners can contact you. I was curious. Is there a book that you recommend, that if people are more interested in learning about the intricacies of the
Yes,
messages of the body,
yes.
what do you recommend people read? Kind of
Well,
like a
there's lots of books out there. I have a couple of my favorites. There's one that Louise Hay has one. And it doesn't cover everything. And I want the listeners to realize this is just a general umbrella to kind of point you in the right direction. But, what is your answer may not be someone else's answer. That's why this gets to be very, very personal.
okay,
So, these books are going to give you the general umbrella and give you some things to think about and
but they're not
explore.
the whole concrete end all be all.
No, nothing to me, nothing is concrete. You have to turn within, because for instance, the book is not going to say, "Oh, it's the feeling that you got from your Aunt Sally whenever she told you this, that, or the other." So it's gonna give you what I like to call a general term, and you take it from there. It just kind of gives you a direction to go in.
That's smart.
And
We
yes, and
really
so
know the answers. Like, we
absolutely,
really
we
do.
know.
I
Yeah,
I truly believe that if you take time and you aren't thinking through this process, you're allowing it to show up, you're going to get a very clear answer, or a subtle hint about what all this is connected to. If you just let yourself hear and not say,
right. Be
I'm
open.
making this shit up, or this is
Yeah.
all across, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Be open to what you're going to hear. Be
yeah.
open to the way you're going to hear it.
Right.
When I was having an issue with my heart, which thank God was not a physical issue, but it was an emotional issue. I'll never forget. I stopped at a red light, and they have one of those billboards that was, it flashes, and then it goes to the next one and to the next one.
Yeah.
The instant I looked up, it said "One Love." It was advertisement for a restaurant that sells chicken, and their slogan was "One Love." I instantly knew, okay, that had to do with my affinity. That had to do, I knew exactly what it had to do. I didn't expect to hear it. I didn't expect to see it. So the information is going to come to you in all kinds of
That's
ways.
synchronicity too. Yeah.
That's absolutely. So it's going to come to you, and don't hold any expectations and don't
Right.
hold anything onto a time frame, and just let it come to you. It might take an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, 10 days, but it's going to come to you. It's going to come to you, and it usually comes fairly quick. If you're asking, usually within 48 hours, I'm going to get an answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just don't be surprised how the answer is going to come to you. But back to books. There is a book by Yvette Rose. I think I recommend it to you, and I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you the exact name of it. But if you Google Yvette Rose, she has a very thick book that goes into a little bit more detail. Again, the books are just to point you in the right direction. Julia Cannon has a really good book that I like. It's a very small book, and it's self-published, but it's got a lot of great information in it. Again, it's going to point you in a direction, and you just kind of take it from
always
there.
rely on
Yourself, yeah. But if you're having trouble, then seek out the help of a medical intuitive that can just get to the point really quick if that's what you need.
Yeah.
Because when we read, we might be able to say, it was that argument that you had with Aunt Sally that's, brought this up for you. We can see that. Whereas you may be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to figure this out. I don't know. Nothing's coming to me. And you kind of get yourself into a frantic panic and you can't figure it out. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Seek the help of a professional if you need to. But truly, you have all the answers within.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't access them, there's people like you.
For sure.
They can go to people like you.
Or you.
Me,
sure.
you.
And we talk about meditation is key. And I know a lot of people run away from themselves because they feel like it's easier. And sure, we all get to a point where it's like we've identified ourselves as such a screw up, or that no matter what you try, you can't win for losing. Like, if you get to that point, and it makes it very difficult to have the patience for introspection. It really does. Unless you get to a point where you're sick and tired of feeling all of that.
Yeah.
You'll end up just being in that discomfort for the rest of your life. But when you talk about the mirror work, I did talk about this, I think it was last week or the week before, I can't remember.
It's a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I listened to it. It's great.
Yeah, but it is so important. It's for you to be able to stare at yourself in the eyes. And I mean, just stare, no talking, in the mirror, good 5-10 minutes. And 5-10 minutes is a very long time when you're staring in the mirror.
Yeah.
And you just have a talk with your soul. And it's so important to be able to do that, and taking responsibility for your thoughts and actions, for sure.
Yep. It's about taking responsibility.
Yeah. And I remember when we talked, you said, you had some serious issues with your parents, and you blamed them for your limitations and insecurities. I think most people do until you get to a certain point and you realize, whoa, okay, they did the best they could. It sucked that they did X, Y, and Z. And yet here I am in my life. What can I take responsibility for? And the minute you pull back that automatic shotgun or whatever it is, automatic rifle that is firing off at everybody else, and you say, you know what? Wait a minute. This has to do with me. Everything about me has to do with me. So that's a common denominator. Let me look at that. You said until you chose to do self-awareness work and realize that everything was to show you how to be stronger, speak up for yourself and others, how to face adversity, how to get up when you got knocked down. And ultimately you learn to let go of grudges.
Yeah. Just let it go. Because everything was happening for me, not to me. And when you
didn't know that.
No. And a lot of people still don't know that everything that happens is happening for you. It's a setup for something better. It's a setup for you to rise above in whatever form or fashion that might be. Yeah. But when you're in the middle of it and you don't see that,
Unless you have advanced to the point where you have a regular practice of introspection,
Right.
and you can pan back like
Right.
they do in the movies and go, oh, wait a minute,
That's,
okay, there's a reason for this happening. What do I need to know about it?
yeah.
But again, most people, they don't.
Yeah. What is it that I need to know about me? Because it's always about
Always
me.
about you. Yeah.
Yeah, that saying goes around. It's not about you. It's not about you. Yeah, sometimes it is about you. It is about you.
It is always about you.
It's always about you. If you're triggered, it's about you.
Yes. Amen, honey.
Yeah. And
Amen.
this is the one thing I think that gets a lot of people whenever I say, and you've said it, if it triggers you, it's about you.
Yeah.
And the other, don't shoot the messenger. You're going to get pissed off
right.
and mad at somebody because they said something that offended you, but you were the one that were triggered. That's what I'm saying by take responsibility for being triggered. The question needs to be, why did that trigger me?
For sure.
They were simply just the messenger.
Right. And I say this too. I remember it was funny because I was at my doctor's visit for the year. And she had said something to me and said, well, maybe, maybe this is part of it. And I kind of quickly discounted it. And then I was like, you know what, is there something in this to what she said? Could there be some sort of truth to what she says instead of just actively rejecting it? If I ended up coming up with a no, which I did, I looked within, I go, is that stuff still lingering? I was like, I really don't think so. But at least I took time to consider.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're quick to say the no and you completely dismiss it and you refuse to look at it, that's the stuff that gets pushed to the back.
Yep.
And that's eventually going to make its way back forward.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
said. Well said.
Yeah.
I was so looking forward to this, to reconnecting with you and talking about this monstrously important part
The
of
heart's very
ourselves,
important.
the heart, like, and to talk about it in this way, beyond just an organ, beyond something that we don't think about, and we just know that we have one, and most people would
take it for granted.
Take it for granted.
We take it for granted until it's not working.
Yeah. But the truth is, to be able to have a long, prosperous life, healthy life, if you think of your heart as the filter for happiness, peace, prosperity, fulfillment, meaning, purpose, then you're gonna regard it in a very, very different way.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the heart's an amazing organ, and like I said in the beginning, it's very resilient.
Ooh.
It's strong. It's resilient. But it's also very delicate.
Yeah. So what do they say with kid gloves? Handle things with kid gloves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
be gentle.
Yeah. I hope y'all that this conversation has opened your eyes and ears and awareness to the true. I am awe-inspired by the body, the human body. I remember being very interested in college, the brain and behavior. I really wanted to major in that, but the universe had other plans for me.
Yeah.
But I've always been fascinated about how miraculous and intricate all of these parts of our body, all these parts are, and this has been such an important conversation to talk about your heart and the true value that it has. It's not just pumping blood, but it really is something to be cared for, nurtured, and honored, and to really pay attention to what your body's telling you, because there's messages. You're not here to suffer. So if anything's out of alignment and you don't feel good, your job is to say, okay, what do I need to learn about this? And what is it about me that I can...
What is my heart trying to tell me?
Yeah. What is your heart trying to tell you? So again, hope y'all found today helpful. I'm so grateful, Tracy, that
thank you,
you
Janice.
came on board. And I know we're going to be doing this more, talking about more medical mediumship.
Hey, and I'll put it out there to the listeners. They can contact you if there's more that if there's something more specific they want to know more about when it comes to the medical intuitive work. There's so many different areas to this healing. modality. And I love talking about it. So anybody that's interested, hey, wants to have a conversation, let me know.
Beautiful. And so let me give y'all her email. It's Tracy at tracyfrederick.com. That's
Tracy.
TRA.
Don't forget the R.
Oh, that's right. Yes. TRACY at TRACYRFERDERICK.com. Her website is tracyfrederick.com, and she can be found on Facebook, Tracy Frederick Energy Reader and Healer. And so thank you for really shedding light on a very, very important topic, and to help
very
people
welcome.
really understand that, your body mind, it's a very real relationship.
Yep. Body, mind, and spirit is all connected. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you to the listeners for taking the time to listen and listen to your heart. It has a lot to say.
Yeah. Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Have
Right.
a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.